Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to be doing a deep dive into alcoholic tinctures in India.
Oh, yeah.
And this is a really fascinating topic.
Yeah,
You know, if you're preparing for the UPSC exams,
absolutely.
this could really come in handy,
Especially for the mains exams.
especially for the mains exam. We're going to be looking at a recent Supreme Court judgment and a really interesting editorial from The Hindu.
Yeah, this is a topic that you wouldn't think is so interesting,
Right.
but it really
It
is.
is.
It's a hidden gem.
Yeah, and it really shows how all of these seemingly different areas like healthcare and economics and law, even cultural sensitivities,
Yeah.
how they all like work together in making real-world policy.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. So imagine this. You have a product that's marketed as a homeopathic remedy.
Right.
You can buy it anywhere,
Oh, yeah.
but it has more alcohol than a beer.
Yeah, that's the situation with some of these tinctures in India,
Right.
and it's causing a lot of problems from a regulatory standpoint.
Yeah, and I think, the heart of the issue is India's constitution.
Right? The union government and the state governments share power,
It's divided.
and it's kind of
Yeah.
leading to some clashes over jurisdiction when it comes to these tinctures.
A little bit of a tug of war.
Yeah. So is this a case of passing the buck?
Not really, but it's close.
Okay.
So states are responsible for public health and for taxing alcohol.
Right.
You'd think they could regulate these tinctures.
Yeah.
But the catch is that the union government is the one that's in charge of alcohol when it's for medicine.
Right.
And a lot of these tinctures are considered homeopathic remedies.
Oh, I see. So that's where the confusion comes in.
Exactly.
It's like a regulatory gray area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The states want to control how much alcohol people drink and protect everybody's health. But they can't really do anything because of how the power is divided.
Yeah.
It makes it really hard to come up with policies that work.
Yeah. So we have this constitutional issue,
Mm-hmm.
but then we also have the Drugs and Cosmetics Act,
Right.
which is a central law.
Yeah.
And that kind of complicates things even more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets really interesting for anybody studying law for the UPSC.
Okay.
So even though these homeopathic tinctures have alcohol in them,
Yeah.
they're still considered to be under this central law,
I see.
which means that states can't just go and make stricter rules.
Okay. So while states are trying to use taxes and regulations to control alcohol,
Yeah,
these tinctures are kind of slipping through the cracks.
they are.
They're getting a free pass.
Yeah, they don't have to deal with the high taxes or the strict rules that regular alcohol does,
Right.
even though they might actually have more alcohol in them.
Yeah. Good.
It's kind of strange.
Yeah, it's definitely a strange situation for sure.
It is.
Okay, so we've got this really messy situation. It's like a regulatory maze.
Yeah.
What have people done to try to fix it? I mean, have there been any attempts to, like, control these tinctures?
Well, back in 1994, the union government tried to step in.
Oh,
They introduced this thing called Rule 106B to the drugs and cosmetics rules.
mm-hmm.
And the goal was to limit how much alcohol these tinctures could have.
Okay.
They wanted to keep it at 12% alcohol.
Okay, so kind of set like a maximum?
Yeah, and they also wanted to restrict the size of the bottles.
Okay, that sounds pretty reasonable,
You would think.
but I have a feeling it didn't go so smoothly.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Okay.
The homeopathic industry was not happy.
Really?
They fought back pretty hard. They started suing and challenging the rule.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they had all these different arguments against it.
So basically like classic lobbying.
It was textbook lobbying.
Wow, so decades of legal battles. I mean, that really shows how much power these industries have.
Yeah, it shows how hard it is to balance what businesses want with what's good for people's health.
Yeah, so did the rule ever actually go into effect after all these challenges?
Yeah, it did.
Go ahead.
The courts ended up siding with the government.
Okay.
They said that the government did have the power to regulate these products. But all the legal stuff that the industry did, it caused a lot of delays.
Oh, wow.
It shows how there are these loopholes and weaknesses in the system.
Right. And then on top of all of that, we have the goods and services tax,
Oh, yeah, the GST.
which was supposed to make taxes simpler.
Right.
But how did that affect this whole alcoholic tincture situation?
That's a great question, and it's something that's really important for people studying for the UPSC prelims.
Okay.
So because these tinctures are classified as medicine,
Mm-hmm.
they end up getting taxed at a lower rate than regular alcohol.
So basically they get a tax break.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
This lower tax rate, it makes the tinctures even more attractive to people who are looking for a cheap way to get drunk.
Right.
And it also means that states are losing out on a lot of potential tax revenue.
Right. And we were just talking about how states are already losing money because of the jurisdictional issues.
It's a double whammy for them.
Wow, it's like they're getting hit from both sides.
They are.
They're trying to control alcohol, and they're trying to keep their budgets balanced.
Exactly.
And this is making it really hard.
Yeah, this is a perfect example of how a policy that's meant to do one thing, like simplify taxes,
Right.
can end up having all these unintended consequences in a completely different area.
This is definitely something that UPSC aspirants need to be aware of.
Absolutely. Now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the health risks.
Okay, yeah, we can't forget about that.
It's easy to get caught up in all the legal and economic stuff.
Right.
But these tinctures are a real threat to people's health.
It's like they're disguised as something harmless.
They are. They're marketed as these traditional remedies.
Right, with like the old-timey packaging and everything.
Exactly, but they could be causing serious harm.
Right.
And what's really worrying is that a lot of people don't even know how much alcohol is in these things.
Yeah, they might just think they're taking something that's good for them.
Yeah, they might be using them for their supposed health benefits.
Right.
Completely unaware of the risks.
So it's almost like a hidden health crisis.
Kind of, yeah. People are putting their health in danger without even realizing it.
And they could end up with serious problems like liver damage.
Exactly. And the way these products are labeled, it doesn't help.
Oh, really?
You might see this nice bottle with traditional pictures and vague claims.
Yeah.
But the actual alcohol content might be hidden in the fine print.
Oh, wow. So it's like they're trying to hide it.
Pretty much.
So consumers are left in the dark. And meanwhile, doctors are seeing more and more patients with liver problems.
Yeah, it's a growing problem.
And it's all because of these so-called remedies.
Yeah, it's really concerning.
So what is the government supposed to do in this situation?
Yeah, that's the big question.
I mean, they have a responsibility to protect people, right? Especially when products are being sold as something that's good for you.
That's a question that comes up a lot in ethics papers for the UPSC mains.
Okay.
The government has a duty to make sure that anything sold in the market, especially if it's supposed to be healthy, is actually safe.
Okay, so we need solutions.
We do.
But this is clearly not an easy problem to fix.
No, it's very
We
complicated.
can't just snap our fingers and make it go away.
It'll take some work.
So what are some things we can do to tackle this?
Well, the recent Supreme Court judgment, it doesn't give us all the answers,
Right.
but it does show us that this is an urgent issue.
Okay.
It's a wake-up call for policymakers and legal experts and public health people to get together and figure out a way forward.
So let's brainstorm. What are some possible ways to address this?
Well, for one thing, we need to take a really good look at the laws that govern medicinal alcohol in India.
Okay.
We need to clear up all this confusion about who's in charge.
So we need clear lines of responsibility.
Exactly. Who has the final say on regulating these tinctures?
Right, because right now it's kind of a mess.
It is. It's like having two people trying to drive the same car at the same time.
Okay, so that's one thing. What else?
We also need to bring science into the equation.
Go ahead.
We need to figure out if these remedies actually work and if they really need to have alcohol in them.
Right, it's that classic debate of
Yeah.
tradition versus evidence.
Exactly. India has this long history of traditional medicine.
Right.
And there are a lot of cultural beliefs around it.
Yeah.
But we can't be afraid to ask tough questions.
Right.
Does the alcohol actually do anything, or is it just there because of tradition? And if it turns out that the alcohol isn't necessary,
Okay.
then we need to find other ways to make these remedies without it.
That don't have the same risks.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's where scientific research comes in.
It's crucial. We need evidence to support our decisions.
And then alongside that, we also need to educate consumers
Absolutely.
and make sure they're protected.
Right, we need to make sure people know what they're buying.
Right.
A lot of people don't even realize how much alcohol is in these products.
So we need clear labeling.
Yes, clear and separate.
Like those warnings you see on cigarette packs.
Exactly.
Like caution contains high levels of alcohol.
No sugar coating.
No beating around the bush.
Yeah, consumers need to know exactly what they're putting into their bodies.
Right. And they need to know the risks.
And that information needs to be obvious and easy to understand.
Right, in your face.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've
Right.
talked about fixing the laws, doing more research, and educating consumers.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one more thing that's really important, isn't there?
Yes. Enforcement.
Right. We can have all the rules in the world.
It doesn't matter if nobody's following them.
It's like having speed limits, but no police to catch speeders.
Exactly. We need to make sure people are actually following the rules.
Right.
We need to monitor production and sales and crack down on anyone who's breaking the law.
And maybe even increase the penalties for companies that put profits ahead of people's health.
Yeah, that might be necessary.
But that's where things get tricky, right?
They do, because you have all these competing interests.
Right. The companies want to make money,
Yeah.
but we also need to protect public health.
And we have to balance tradition with modern ideas.
It's a tough balancing act.
It is, and it's something that policymakers have to deal with all the time.
Yeah, this whole situation is like a textbook case for policy analysis.
It is.
For UPSC aspirants, I mean, this is like gold.
Think about it. You have legal issues, public health concerns, economic factors, even ethical dilemmas.
Yeah, it's all connected.
It all ties together.
And this is the kind of real-world problem that you'll have to deal with as a future administrator.
You need to be able to understand these complex situations and figure out how to solve them.
This really shows how different policy areas are all interconnected.
They are.
It's not just about health or just about economics.
It's about everything.
It's about how decisions in one area can have consequences in other areas.
Exactly, and that's why this topic is so valuable for UPSC preparation.
Especially for the mains exam.
It's like a mini version of the bigger challenges that India is facing.
Wow, this episode is really packed with insights for our listeners.
I hope so.
But we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
So I think it's time to take a little break.
Sounds.
We've talked about the legal stuff and the health risks,
Yeah.
but there's one more layer we need to peel back.
The economic side of things?
Yeah, we mentioned how states are losing money,
You did.
but there's a whole other story there.
There is.
So after the break, we're going to dive into the economics of this whole thing.
We'll uncover the hidden costs of this public health crisis.
So stay tuned. So we're back, and we've been talking about all these, the legal issues and the health risks
Yeah.
with these alcoholic tinctures in India.
It's quite a mess.
But now we got to look at the money, the economic side of things.
This is where it gets really interesting, especially for those UPSC folks out there.
Right.
Studying economics for the exam.
Yeah.
We tend to focus on the immediate health problems.
Yeah.
But this issue has a much wider economic impact that often gets overlooked.
And we did mention how states are losing money because these tinctures are taxed less than regular alcohol.
Yeah, we touched on that.
But maybe you could unpack that a bit more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So remember how we were talking about the GST and how these tinctures are classified as medicine?
Uh-huh.
Well, that puts them in a lower tax bracket
Okay.
compared to regular alcoholic drinks.
I see.
And this has a domino effect.
So it's not just like a small amount of money we're talking.
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay.
This lower tax rate makes these tinctures a much cheaper way to get drunk.
Yeah.
And it also means that states are missing out on a ton of potential tax revenue.
Wow. So it's a double whammy.
Yeah, especially for states like Gujarat and Bihar, where alcohol is banned.
Right.
It really undermines their efforts to control alcohol consumption.
Yeah.
And it hurts their budgets, too.
It's like a leak in a pipeline.
Exactly.
Money that could be used for important services is just disappearing.
And it's all because of these products disguised as remedies.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it doesn't stop there.
Right.
We also have to think about how much it costs to treat people who get sick from this stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We talked about how these tinctures can cause serious health problems.
Right. Even though they're marketed as harmless,
Yeah.
it's a recipe for disaster.
So now we're putting a strain on the healthcare system, too.
Exactly. Think about all the costs involved.
Okay.
Hospital stays, long-term treatment for things like liver damage medications.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention all the lost productivity because people are too sick to work.
Right. It all adds up.
It's a huge economic burden on everyone.
Individuals, families, the whole healthcare system.
Exactly. It's like a chain reaction.
Wow. What starts as a small problem ends up having all these massive economic consequences.
That's why it's so important for UPSC aspirants to see the big picture.
Yeah.
This case study is a perfect example of how something that seems isolated can actually have effects across so many different areas.
Health economics, social well-being.
Exactly.
Wow. It's a reminder that good policymaking requires us to think about all the different angles.
Absolutely. You got to connect the dots. Analyze the potential outcomes and come up with solutions that address the problem from every side.
Well, this has been a really eye-opening discussion.
It has.
We've gone through the legal maze, the health hazards, the possible solutions,
We've covered a lot of ground.
and now we've looked at the economic impact.
Hopefully our listeners who are studying for the UPSC exams have a much better understanding of this issue now.
Right, and remember being able to analyze real-world situations like this,
Yeah.
connecting different areas of knowledge and presenting clear arguments.
That's what's going to help you succeed in the exam.
This case study is perfect for essays, ethics papers, even economics and public administration sections.
It really is.
Don't just try to memorize the facts.
Right.
Understand the principles, the cause and effect relationships, the potential solutions.
That's what will make you stand out.
And beyond the exam, this understanding is crucial for anyone who wants to be a civil servant.
Absolutely. The decisions you make will affect people's lives.
So it's important to have this big picture view.
Always look for solutions that benefit everyone.
Well, this has been a really enlightening deep dive.
It has.
And I want to thank you for sharing your expertise with us.
My pleasure. And to all our listeners out there, remember, knowledge is power.
Keep learning.
We encourage you to check out the Hindu editorial we talked about.
Yeah, it's got some really great insights.
Stay curious, stay informed, and keep those brains working.
And on that note, we're wrapping up this deep dive.
It's been fun.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with your fellow UPSC buddies.
Spread the knowledge.
We'll be back soon with another fascinating deep dive into a topic that matters.
Until then, keep learning, and good luck with your studies.
See you next time.